Well, good evening and welcome everyone. Our panel discussion this evening is called Time for New Ideas. Hello and thanks for joining. I'm Tim Panfill. I'm the Senior Director of Graduate Admission and Enrollment Management for Elmhurst University, and I will serve as this evening's panel moderator. Joining me this evening are panelists Dr. Bruce Fisher, Professor of Business and Director of the Graduate Program in Project Management, as well as the new Graduate Certificate in Innovation and Entrepreneurship, along with Dr. Sonny Simpson, Associate Professor of Business and our own in-house creativity expert. Along with Bruce and Sonny are Patrick Yanahan, Elmhurst University's Entrepreneur in Residence, and Travis Linderman, Managing Director of our local small business incubator called Innovation DuPage. You'll have an opportunity to learn more about each of them in just a few minutes. This evening's webinar is being brought to you by the Office of Admission Graduate Studies and is being sponsored by the new Graduate Certificate in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. The session is being recorded and we'll send you a link within the next few days. So why this topic for a panel discussion? Well, for one thing, in case you missed it, Elmhurst University was ranked this past fall by US News as the third most innovative institution in all of the Midwest. That's quite an accomplishment and one that we are extremely proud of. The faculty, staff, students, and administration of Elmhurst University remain committed to continuing along our path of innovation, especially with respect to new academic offerings, our numerous community-based partnerships, and perhaps most recently, through the introduction of our e-Accelerator, the Elmhurst Entrepreneurs Initiative, which is part of the Wiegand Center for Professional Excellence. 2020 and now into 2021, what I'm calling the Zoom years. To quote a line from Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. The worst of times is pretty obvious as the many challenges that were brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. But as the saying goes, necessity is the mother of all invention. Oftentimes, the best new ideas are born during times of chaos and unrest. This evening's panel discussion will address the notions of creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, and intrapreneurship with respect to what needs to be done now and in the very near future as our nation emerges from the clutches of the pandemic. How will you, your employer, or your new venture move forward and thrive in the post-pandemic new economy? Now, before I turn things over to our panelists for their self-introductions and wisdom sharing, we thought it would be helpful to get to know a little bit more about who's logged into the conversation this evening and perhaps why you registered. To that extent, we've got a few poll questions that we'd like you to participate in. Here comes the first poll. So question number one, in terms of creativity and innovation, how would you rate yourself? Are you A, stick in the mud kind of a person, B, stuck in the middle, or C, are you the person that everyone calls the idea person? We'll give you a moment to go ahead and choose your answers there. All right, I think everybody's probably had enough time to choose A, B, or C, and if we could go ahead and share the poll results. All right, well, this is good news. Nobody seems to be really a stick in the mud. So most of the participants this evening are kind of in the middle or would, really consider themselves a very creative person. So that's outstanding. All right, a few more poll questions to go. Question number two, do you want to innovate A, within an organization, B, start your own business, or C, do both? We'll give you a minute here or so just to pop in your answers. All right, if we could go ahead and close the poll and take a look at those results. Okay, so heavily weighted between wanting to innovate within an organization or both. 17% start their own business. So this is really good information for us as we move forward with the discussion. Okay, question number 3. Do you have an idea for creating a new product, service, or is it C, a charity or a nonprofit? And again, you can think about creating a new product within your existing organization, or if it's something brand new to the world that you want to pitch on Shark Tank or something. Could be a service as well. And I do know that there's a lot of people out there that are looking to begin or start charities or nonprofit organizations. So A, B, or C, we're going to close the poll in a couple of seconds here. All right, let's see what the audience said. Okay, the bulk of you have an idea for a new service, and hopefully our panelists will comment on that in terms of new ventures in 2021 and beyond. All right, our fourth and final poll question is, what has held you back from moving forward with your idea? Is it A, kind of a lack of knowledge? B, are you facing financial constraints? C, is it time? Or is it D, something else? So I'll give you a moment to just think about that. What's held you back? Knowledge, money, time, or something else? All right, if we go ahead and close the poll and take a look at those results. Okay, so pretty evenly distributed between the knowledge, the money, and the time, as well as something else. So there's other things in there that hopefully we'll be able to identify this evening. And the audience members will have a chance to type in your questions a little bit later on after we go through each of the panelists' introductions. So we're going to leave adequate time to address as many questions as we can get to. So thank you very much for participating in the polls. Gives us a little bit better idea who's out there and perhaps what you're looking to learn this evening. It's now my pleasure to turn the Zoom over to our first panelist, Dr. Sani Simpson, Associate Professor of Business, for her self-introduction and sharing of information on creativity and innovation. Sani? You're muted, Sani.
Sorry about that. Now you are going to see a screen with black and white, yes? All right, wanted to make sure we're in the right place. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you a few questions here, but the first thing I want to, and give us some kind of groundwork, some base terms and some base way of thinking about the rest of our talks tonight. But when we're thinking about innovation, why are we talking about innovation now when we're dealing with this whole pandemic thing? And the reality is history tells us that the companies that invest in innovation during crises outperform their peers during recovery. And this is data from the 50 most innovative companies versus the rest of the like S&P 500 in the period during the Great Recession and afterwards. And what we know is they outperformed by 10% during the crisis and by 30% afterwards. So now is absolutely the time we should be thinking about innovation. And so I have a quick little exercise, and I want you to type this into the Q&A box. And I want you to tell me, what are great innovations and why? What do you think a great innovation is? And I'm going to need to have Sherry or Tim let me know what those are, please, because I can't see them from my screen. So,
not a problem, we're on it.
Okay, so what is a great innovation that you can think of? If you can type that in the Q&A box, that would be great.
Don't be shy.
All right. Okay. So, okay, I'm seeing some here. We got the COVID-19 vaccine. We've got airplanes. We've got a few others that are coming through. I'm seeing technology. Oh, I'm seeing a number of things popping up here. I am actually seeing them. So this is great. So I asked this question because oftentimes we limit our thinking. And for me, one of the greatest innovations in the planet is the umbrella. Another great innovation is the the recycling man, right? That picks up my garbage at the end of the street and does something with it. But when we're talking about innovation, we're talking about not just inventions and business models and designs, we're talking about processes, right? New ways for people to interact, some way to deliver customer value. And so when we're thinking about innovation, it's really the process of creating something new. And you guys need to know that over 55% of the innovations in the US come from small entrepreneurial firms. Hence, we've got our own entrepreneur in residence here that's going to be speaking right after me. And so innovation involves the part that I love the most, which is great creativity, lots and lots of ideas. I spent many, many years, almost 2 decades in corporate America doing more than 2 decades, doing brand management, where I had to have all 3 of these sets of skills: creativity, strategy, and implementation down pat. And Dr. Fisher is going to talk a lot about implementation, and we all deal with strategy. How useful are those ideas? But that creativity looks outside of our experiences for new ideas. So I'm going to encourage all of you to get out and do things different, look at places, things in a different way. Pandemic has asked us to do that. We're looking things from a different way. Velcro, where did it come from? Little burrs stuck on somebody's dog, right? So looking outside our current experience, innovation brings it back in, right? So I want to ask you, are you fostering excellent creative problem solving in your organization? That's the creativity, is the process of generating that novel or useful idea, right? And we can break that down into 6 steps. So, for those of you that's at your kind of middle of the road, you may be thinking that you aren't the person that does all the ideation. There are wonderful 6 steps. And so we're going to do a quick little exercise with that. The first 3 steps are all about exploring, finding our objective and our facts and our problems. And so what I want you to do is take some notes right now, write down these in your own notes about Whitney. What is Whitney? Wouldn't it be nice if? Where do you think those great ideas come from? Wouldn't it be nice if we could host webinars and panels without having to be face-to-face because we're in a pandemic? Wouldn't it be nice if I could have my family get together every week and play Zoom games? Wouldn't it be nice if I could walk outside without my feet getting cold and wet, boots, right? So wouldn't it be nice if? So spend just 30 seconds right now writing down, wouldn't it be nice if, dealing with the problem you have. All right, so then what we do is once we figured out what the problem is, then we generate our ideas and we brainstorm lots of ideas, lots of wild ideas. So what I'm going to encourage you all to do is to create an idea log where you're writing down those Whitneys all day long. When you're pulling those burrs off that dog's fur, wouldn't it be nice if I could, my jacket stuck together this well, or my kid could keep his shoes tied as well as my dog's burrs stick to the fur, right? And let's invent Velcro. And brainstorm lots of ideas. And then we move into that plan of action, that implementing, that converging on that best idea. And some people are really great at that convergence piece. So last, I've got 2 little quick points here. Are you and your organization leveraging design thinking? And that's that human-centered approach, right? And so it's really thinking about those problems. Wouldn't it be nice if we could solve those problems we have, and drawing upon our toolkit of the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. And again, look at my umbrellas, best invention in the planet, right? So when are organizations most creative? So I left the corporate world to teach in about 2004, 2003, fell in love with teaching for a whole variety of reasons. I was a client in a classroom and needed something where I could give back. The corporate work was wonderful, but I needed something else. And so as I've been moving and transitioning, and I got my doctorate in this area and all of that, I've been asking myself, when are organizations most creative? And so I've done this great meta-analysis, and I've been looking at all the different literature out there. And what I found is there's a creativity sweet spot. So you need to ask yourself about these 4 conditions that foster or inhibit creativity. I call it the SIPO model. What are society's needs and what are the assumptions we have about that? Guess what? Pandemics created a whole bunch of set of needs for us, right? Are the individual that's going to ideate, are they ready and enabled? The person in power in that situation, are they truly open to fostering ideas, or are they saying, yes, but we tried that in the past and it didn't work, right? Yes, but we da da da. And is your organization systems inhibiting and fostering ideas? So the last little exercise I have for you is I want you to write down, how are you impacting creativity in your organization? We can teach you these things, right? So in what ways are you inadvertently inhibiting creative problem solving and thus innovation in your organization? How many times are you saying, yes, but we tried that before. Yes, but that didn't work. Or yes, but have you thought about all of these things? Many times. And what can you do to positively impact a creative culture? Can you create Whitney situations where your group just sits around, you and your friends? Wouldn't it be nice if, wouldn't it be nice if, and now let's solve that problem. So that's my little introduction to a little tiny bit of my hundreds of hours of how we can be creative. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off and I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Sonny, that was excellent. And I absolutely know the topic of my next staff meeting. It's going to be Whitney. So now before I turn the Zoom over to Patrick, let me just throw you a question to maybe respond to. There's been a lot of adapting and innovating over the past 12 months as individuals and organizations have had to navigate the turning waters of the pandemic, so to speak. I know internally at Elmhurst University, we had to pivot on a dime and move to remote learning, move all student services online. And with that, we've also been able to do some cool events online and been innovative. Now, we're starting to see a little light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccine rollout and what have you. So I'm guessing now could be even a more critical time for individuals and organizations to be more creative and innovative. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, Tim, I'd be happy to. This is absolutely the time to be as innovative as possible. And as I showed with my opening data that McKinsey published actually just this week, those organizations that focus on innovation when they hit these crisis modes, and the words I like to use are positive intelligence leadership words, which are, what can we do today? This is as a positive intelligence leader. So here's your meeting 2 meetings from now. What can we do today so that in 3 years from now, we look at this crisis and say it was the best thing that ever happened to us? Those innovative organizations, that's what they did when they hit their crisis in the Great Recession. And as you can tell from the data that I just showed briefly, they outperformed the market by 30% within a couple of years. And so it's they say motherhood is the necessity, or necessity is the motherhood of invention. I think, people are tired. I get that. People want to take a little break. I get that. Take those times to break, to nurture your soul, but come back with what can we do today so that in 3 years from now, we look at this as the best thing ever. How can we rethink our business? Do we really want to go back to 2019, or can we actually put things in place that will make us that much more efficient, that will improve our processes, and that will provide services to people that they just hadn't had before. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, it's now my pleasure to introduce our next panelist, Patrick Yanahan. Patrick's a double alum of Elmhurst, earned his bachelor's and his MBA at Elmhurst University. And he's now, about a year, Patrick, been hired as the entrepreneur in residence for Elmhurst University.
Yeah, we're in year 2. Thank you for the introduction, Tim. A little bit on myself. I became the entrepreneur in residence early last year, just before COVID hit, actually, thanks to a collective effort of executive staff and faculty at the university, along with a very generous grant from PNC Bank, which launched our entrepreneurial program here at Elmhurst, which is called the E-Accelerator. A little bit on myself. I also earned, as Tim had mentioned, my undergrad and MBA degrees from the university. So it really was wonderful to see some familiar faces again on campus with the new role and to meet all of our students, sometimes in face, a lion's share virtually, but the good news is we'll all be back seeing each other in person shortly. In the private sector, I've got a long history of working with small business owners and Fortune 500 companies on how to grow their businesses. As my other job is running our strategic marketing firm that caters to technology, packaging, and machinery companies in Wheaton. So we learn a lot from our clients on their innovation successes and even lessons learned when things don't go as they planned when the marketplace shifts. So that's a little background on me. Thank you.
Tim, you're muted.
Tim, you're muted this time.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Patrick. I did want to throw something out there kind of early on here. Kind of getting the elephant out of the room. On February 22nd, President Joe Biden remarked that since the beginning of the pandemic, 400,000 small businesses have gone under in the US, and about 1 million more are hanging on by a thread.
Mhm.
So why is now a good time to start something new?
It's a good question, Tim. I think as horrible as the pandemic is, and as badly as it's affected so many people, it's really pushed individuals to come up with new ideas, products, and services. You know, the COVID shock was really much more intense and so fast compared to what happened in the last recession. You know, as we saw in the news, there were mass layoffs immediately that resulted in people turning to self-employment because they didn't really have much of a choice because they knew that those jobs that they had probably weren't going to come back. We were really staring into the abyss going back to last February, March. So for the last few months, a large shift from employee to entrepreneur has been going on for a while now, and it shows in the numbers. With scores of restaurants and retailers and all sorts of different markets that were shuttered without a viable comeback. Even frontline workers were launching traveling hair salons and virtual workout classes. So it was really interesting to read stories about that. Some interesting factoids, some new business applications which would-be entrepreneurs must file for tax purposes have skyrocketed, and they've grown about 38% as of mid-November last year, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. So the Census Bureau data also shows that applications by businesses not expected to have employees. And so what we mean by that is, it's a sign of a one-person business launch. That has surged 32% in the first 9 months of 2020 from a year earlier. There was an article in Sunday's Tribune, I think it was towards the end of March, that indicated almost 190,000 Illinois businesses have started up since the onset of the pandemic. So, on campus, it's also interesting because the pandemic situation, although it's improving now, it's created a segment of university students that are considering launching their own businesses out of necessity and concerned that the job market would not be ready for them when they graduated. So part of my job is to help them determine, why do they want to get into their own business psychologically as a first step? As in, are they running towards something? Are they running away from something? Once we establish their new business hypothesis and mindset, then we work on how to get their business idea going. The good news is that it appears that once we, get through the mass inoculation period of the general public, the job market should be opening up nicely for everyone, including students and everybody else, which provides even more opportunities no matter which way individuals want to go with their careers, whether it's getting a corporate job or starting their own entity or innovating something new.
Thanks very much, Patrick. I appreciate the information that you shared. Our next presenter is Dr. Bruce Fisher. he's the professor of business and the program director for project management, as well as the brainchild of the graduate certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship. So without further ado, I'll turn things over to Dr. Fisher.
Thank you, Tim. My pleasure to be here tonight and talk to everybody. Entrepreneurship is an exciting field for me, and I'm not the only one. It's really getting momentum. It's got legs in recent years among business majors at universities and colleges. So let me talk a little about what is entrepreneurship and why it's significant. I think the most significant thing about entrepreneurship is it creates jobs. Think about that. What better thing can you do for society than create a job? First for yourself, and then maybe a dozen others, and really the sky's the limit. Entrepreneurs solve problems. I was trained as an engineer, and I had a professor once that said, welcome problems. That's what engineers are for. Well, entrepreneurs too. You find something that is needed. You look for problems. You should be letting your mind, wherever you go, be observant. In fact, I want to talk about curiosity, because I think that is really what entrepreneurship is about. And a good entrepreneur must be have curiosity. You know, at Disney, they have a job category or classification called Imagineering. And you know how creative Disney is. I mean, one of the more creative companies in the country. What is the future of entrepreneurship? Well, very good. And I'll tell you what the statistics show. It's not my data, but I can see it anecdotally. Artificial intelligence is taking over a lot of jobs. I think you are very aware of this. You can see it with self-driving vehicles. In 10 years, probably a lot of those 18-wheelers are going to be self-driven. 3 million people drive trucks in this country. But even in the white-collar area, artificial intelligence is so powerful that it is replacing a lot of college graduate jobs. If they're fairly routine, the jobs that will remain or be created and to take the place of those are ones where you're creative, where you imagine. And so what we're talking about tonight, I think, is the reality and important to everybody. And I'm glad that you're here, because that suggests you're interested in entrepreneurship. I like to watch TED Talks. I don't know if you're an addict, but there's nothing more fun for me to do than spend an hour just looking at TED Talks. And there was the most popular TED Talk was done by the late Sir Ken Robinson. Probably a few of you have seen it. He was really a proponent, a very vocal proponent, a very articulate one, for making schools more, teach students to be more creative in K through 12. And he was appalled, as a lot of us are, that the public school system does not encourage creativity. They teach it conformity. And he told a story that I like. Let me tell you. It's a short one. He said there was a teacher and the students, young students, very young, were doing an art project. And she was going from student to student and looking over their shoulder. And she went to this one girl and said, honey, what are you doing? What is that going to be? And the little girl said, I'm drawing a picture of God. The teacher said, oh, that's nice, sweetie, but no one knows what God looks like. The little girl said, in about 15 minutes, they will. That's imagination. And we beat it out of the kids, really. I don't know if we take a stick and beat it out of them, but we discourage it. Encouragement is probably the most powerful word in teaching, encouraging people. And we want to encourage more innovation. But let's get back to the college level. As Tim said, I have created a program, and there's nothing like creating. I'll tell you, creating anything, write a book, write a song, anything that's new, the satisfaction. And I think you all have experienced that one way or another. So to create a new program was a thrill for me, and I'm happy to be here and basically launch it here today. We've launched a couple of months ago officially, but this is our first public media experience. Let me tell you a story about a guy named Jeff. Jeff was an investment, I think he was a private equity, or maybe he was an investment banker, but he was on Wall Street. He was very good and he made a good salary. Those guys make a lot of money, of course. But he had a dream, as so many people do. He had an idea in his head and he couldn't scratch it, you know, I mean, it wouldn't. And he said to himself, and I thought this was very, very perceptive. He said, he always asks himself, will I regret this when I'm 60? Not doing something, the opportunity cost. So he had this dream, and it was to start a bookstore, start a business, but it was going to be, then he researched it, and the internet was new. This was about 30 years ago. And he said, I'll do a bookstore and I'll sell books online. And his wife went along with it, and they sold the house and quit his job, and they got in the car and with the cat and drove across the country to Seattle. I guess there was a big warehouse in Oregon that he would wanted to be close to, and he thought about selling books via the internet. Okay, that's the idea. The idea is the start, though. My point that I'm getting at is, good for him. He finally cut the tether, if you will, and took the risk. And his thought was, what have I got to lose? Well, you might say a lot of money, but his point was he was making enough money. I imagine he would be okay. He could go back to Wall Street. He was doing it himself on a shoestring. Basically, he had a small crew, and for one thing he talks about is they were packing their own books. There was a guy who was making six-figure income. Now he's boxing books. He was on his hands and knees in his garage with his wife and his couple helpers. And he got up and he said, you know, we need knee pads. And his employee said, no, Jeff, we need a packing table. So they got a packing table and the productivity went up 100%. Well, humility is a really good quality for management, and he did display that. But that was just one thing. It was symptomatic or typical, I should say, of what happens when you start a new business. You got an idea. It doesn't have to be a breakthrough revolutionary idea. You can start a pizzeria, but you've got to have a competitive advantage. You've got competition out there is doing the same thing. And how are you going to differentiate yourself? And how do you deal with this? So if you start a business, you need help, you need support. And if you're inexperienced, you're young, haven't had work experience or haven't had entrepreneurship experience, you're gonna hit some speed bumps. It's part of the game, and don't think it isn't otherwise. So it isn't just the idea. This everything along the way. In fact, when you say innovation, and every company I know claims they're innovative, and I don't think a lot of them are, but they claim it, or they want to be. They want to be. That's it. But they don't know how to do it. That's really the truth. We'll talk about entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship. That's people that work within a company. Right now, I'm talking about entrepreneurship, but the skills are basic. Skill set's the same, really. So in Silicon Valley, they talk about failing early and often, and they really know innovation out there. That's really the mecca of creativity and innovation today. And when anybody wants to be creative, they say, we want to be the next Silicon Valley. In fact, I listened to webinar at lunch today from the University of Chicago, and they want to be this Silicon Valley of quantum enterprises, of business, quantum business. There's an interesting topic, but I don't want to get off topic here. Innovation is an idea plus implementation. It's a formula. It's just an idea in your head. You might have the best mousetrap in the world, but until you do something with it, it's just a dream. It's wonderful to have a dream, and it's a fantasy perhaps even, but enjoyable. But so how do you launch it? Well, Jeff just bit the bullet. Well, he was a smart guy. You may have figured out who Jeff is. He's Jeff Bezos, of course. He really smart guy, really hired really good people. That's always key. Just like in my little venture here, I'm an entrepreneur, aren't I, Tim? Am I an entrepreneur? I think so. With my new certificate, and I started another one, the Master's in Project Management 6 years ago. That's really taking off as well. So I get a little of entrepreneurship in my job as a professor. So Jeff Bezos scaled his business. He added to his product line. At first, it was just books, and then, as we all know the story, expanded it to just about everything from aardvarks to zithers now. I think you can get anything on Amazon, just about. They got into, I don't know how many people know this, they were the pioneer in cloud computing. That's a big industry, huge industry. Everybody else got in, they got in first. They had their failures, products. They didn't seem to know how to make a phone. They abandoned that project. That's the way it is with entrepreneurship. You've got to be prepared for those starts, and I call them speed bumps. So why do I bring that up? I don't want to be discouraging. I always want to be positive. That's what entrepreneurs are. That's why I like to be around entrepreneurs. We have a lot of them in Elmhurst around it. We have 4 present here. I'm counting Tim Panfill as well. I know about your business, Tim, because you gave me some of your products. It was good too. Stick with it. Is that a secret? I hope I didn't let the cat out of the bag. Okay. Implementation. Let me talk about that a minute, because there's some skills that you need. I mentioned I'm a project management person, started the Project Management Masters. Agile project management is the latest thing, and it's made for innovation and entrepreneurship, because you do things in chunks or scrums, and you expect change, and you don't plan everything at the beginning. You plan in those roughly 2-week increments. So that's one thing, the project management. Have fun in what you do. I see Tim's picture here, so I'm talking to him. Tim has fun. He's laughing all the time. He really enjoys his work. But what about Jeff Bezos? Got a lot of stress? Yeah. He just recently stepped down as CEO, but he's got what? What's his name of his company? Blue Horizon or Blue Planet or something like that. His space program, just like SpaceX, Elon Musk. These entrepreneurs have a lot of fun. They really enjoy themselves. You ever hear Bezos laugh? It's wonderful. It's a totally belly laugh. It just makes you want to laugh. Let's see, I got a few other things. In implementation, which I say is really the most important thing in innovation. Think about one of the greatest inventors of all time, Edison. Edison created the first real industrial lab in Menlo Park, too. I think that was his best invention, really, but he had a lot of them, as you all know. We use them every day. And I think you've heard the story, but maybe you haven't. Edison said, I didn't fail to find the right material for the filament for the incandescent lamp 1,000 times. And it was a race. There were other people trying to do it too. They knew about electricity. They knew they could have light, but the filament was the issue. What was the right material? So he said, I didn't fail 1,000 times to try and find the right material. I succeeded 990 times to find the wrong material. I think that's the biggest quality of an entrepreneur. I've never met an entrepreneur that wasn't positive. Not Pollyanna-ish, but I mean, you got to be a little bit of a cheerleader. That's why you're going to be successful, Tim.
Bruce, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we're running a little bit short on time.
So I just wanted to wrap up by saying one thing about our graduate program. It's a certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship. It's 4 courses over 2 semesters, and we have great experienced entrepreneurs as the teachers. That's the most important part of a program, but we also have a supporting staff. You've seen the 2 other presenters here. Innovation to Page, we love them. They help us so much. And Patrick's our entrepreneurship in residence. So thank you then. Thank you for your time, Tim.
Thanks, Dr. Fisher. Yeah, if you want to learn more about the certificate program, we've got the website right there on the slide. It's 4 8-week-long classes. They're offered in what's called the Elmhurst University Flex model. So you can do them on campus, you can do them online, or you can even bounce back between 1 week on campus, 1 week online. So it's pretty much the ultimate in flexibility in terms of graduate learning. We're going to move now to our last, but certainly not least panelist, and that's Travis Linderman. Travis is the managing director of our local small business incubator, Innovation DuPage. So Travis, the Zoom is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you having me here today. For those who don't know, Innovation DuPage is a nonprofit venture here in DuPage County. We work with founders of startups and small businesses. We're connecting them with the different resources, mentorship, partners like Elmhurst and other academic, economic development, and research partners. One of the reasons that we have the supercomputer behind me is that Argonne National Lab and Fermilabs, which are 2 of the 17 Department of Energy National Labs, are here in DuPage County. And the county has taken a new initiative looking over the next 5 years to make sure that MBAs, PhDs, startup founders, new businesses that can connect both with technology and innovation brands are going to be supported at every level. And that's just rolling out. Innovation DuPage is excited to be part of that initiative, and everybody on this panel has been working with startups at Innovation DuPage, as well as helping students at Elmhurst connect with our startups, be it through internships or when they graduate, joining the team. So it's been really exciting. Tim, I was wondering if you could run that video, and then I'll tell a little bit more about myself.
Absolutely.
Thank you. it's fun watching all the other panelists bob their head and dance to that music at the same time. You'll notice from that video that one of the major underlining themes and initiatives for Innovation DuPage is diversity, equity, inclusion. In addition to having a diversity of partners and reaching all across the county, making sure that underrepresented and underserved entrepreneurs, that they also can tap into these resources is a key point. And Elmhurst, I know that is another major initiative that they're partnering with us on this process. And again, for those who are interested, please connect afterwards. This new certification that Elmhurst is producing is a tremendous first step if you are trying to launch something, learning how to do this. We are part of that process, being able to bring additional mentors. We have an incubator right off the train line from Elmhurst here in Glen Ellen, but we will come to campus. We're working with a lot of the student groups, including Patrick's group and the Accelerator. So just really quickly, I was very fortunate to be a startup founder with Princeton University. We grew our team very quickly, and after 18 months, we were acquired by a large Fortune 500 company. I have been the director of 3 other venture incubators before being selected to help build Innovation. And I was working with some of our teams. Over the last decade, the startups that I've been fortunate enough to work with have raised over $875 million of angel investment and venture capital dollars. That can be done here as well in DuPage County because of partnerships like Innovation DuPage and Elmhurst University.
Thanks, Travis.
Sir.
How old is Innovation DuPage?
It's actually only 2 years old. We opened our doors to the community on May 19th of 2019. And right now we have over 100 startups that we're working with. We have just been able to reopen again to those startups at the beginning of February. We are socially distanced. We are following CDC guidelines, but our different events are hybrid models. We are doing lots of consultations and trainings over Zoom. So be it if you're staying at home or you do want to come and interact with other entrepreneurs in person, we can do that here at Innovation DuPage.
Travis, here's a question I bet you hear pretty often. I've got an idea for a new product or service, but I just don't know where to start. What would you share with them?
Yeah.
Besides taking the new certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship from Elmhurst University, of course.
Yeah. Well, I think there's been wisdom by each of the 3 speakers in looking at what is the value proposition for what you're trying to build. Be it if it's a product or a service or new technology, there has to be something that makes you different than the rest of the market. And you can't really know what that is until you go out and you validate over and over and over again with your potential customers and partners. You have a lot of hypotheses that you come into this game with, and you have these ideas. But until there's somebody that's actually going to purchase it or give you a try or do a pilot with you, it's just an idea. And it can fail very, very quickly, or you can run out of capital, or you may not be able to build the team. So the validation is important. Finding out who those customers are and what is that pain point? What does the market need and what are they going to pay for? And when you build something, is it something that everybody will need to have over and over and over again? If you're a brand, will they want the next launch from your brand? If you're software, are you going to become so embedded in people's lives or in a company that they can never get rid of you because you have become so interwoven into the culture of that company or into somebody's day that you're there, you're sticky. They can't get rid of you in that process. So that's something you look at, but you have to bring in vetted mentors, experts who have done this And that's why the certification is so great, that you have a starting point, and there's people in the community that both Patrick, myself, our other mentors, we can connect you with, because it can be lonely to build something by yourself. When you can bounce ideas off of other entrepreneurs or get into the same room and say, you know, this is going horribly wrong, and be vulnerable, that opportunity is where their resources and their knowledge will help boost you up, and you'll get energized. You might just have to go out for a drink or have a party and just get your brain off of working on this 24/7. But that's the importance of having that balance of other entrepreneurs and mentors in your life.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go ahead and open up the chat for audience questions for our panelists. Please don't use the Q&A, just use the chat function, because all the panelists can see them. And if your question is directed towards a specific panelist, we just put their names up there. So just be like Sonny, Patrick, Bruce, or Travis, and then go ahead and type in your question. So while you're beginning to enter your chats, your questions into the chat, I'm going to go to Patrick and with this initial question. I've been hearing a lot of talk about this thing called a side hustle. What are they, and can they actually lead into like a full-time gig?
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes.
You're good.
Oh, can you hear? Okay, great. Okay, sorry about that. Oh, sorry, I had a little delay there. Tim, good question as far as a side hustle. Probably best thing to do maybe is to let me help what a side hustle is pertinent to the question. The term really refers to any type of employment that's undertaken under one's existing day job, right? The side hustles are often jobs a person is really passionate about. They want to start and test the waters, try something at night on the weekends, and they're really into it. Okay, they're far more focused and dedicated to it perhaps than their typical day job, you know, just working for someone else to make in order to make ends meet. In fact, I had some survey data from Forbes that one of the studies that they did showed that about 54% of the respondents in this one article planned on starting a side hustle due to the pandemic, you know, with some seeing potential success that they never thought possible with their 9-to-5 jobs. The good news about side hustles is it offers a chance to really get a time advantage, because it's obviously launching a business or, you know, researching it and pursuing it, it takes a tremendous amount of prep work that has to be done. So, you know, obviously you have to understand your market, your business, and you have to do a lot of work with that. So the good news of this side hustle approach is it really offers less financial risk because you're doing it on the side, you know, from your current job. And if you do your homework, define your unique selling proposition that Bruce had mentioned, and you prevail and persist. Yeah, Tim, to answer your question, you can turn a side hustle into a full-time job if you spend the time and put the effort in. Before I stop, let me list a very relevant side hustle example. You know, e-commerce companies like Shopify and Etsy, you know, provide an opportunity for budding entrepreneurs to open up their own online stores with support and services assisting them. And that can be maintained on a part-time basis. So it's great. And, you know, by the way, Shopify has well over, 1 million merchants now. So it's a huge thing. Thank you.
Excellent. Next question is going to be for Sonny. Are people born creative, or can anyone learn to be creative?
Yes, everybody's born creative. They're just born with different types of creativity. And so we have what's called creative intelligence. And so you may be somebody that's very analytical in your approach. You may be somebody that's really good at generating a lot of different ideas. You may be somebody that's very problem-solving oriented. we actually can measure that, and we can test you and help you understand in what way you're most creative, whether it's expanding on ideas, generating ideas, divergent thinking or convergent thinking, whether you're more of an adapter or an innovator. There are a number of different tools out there. So yes, every single human being is born creative. They're born creative in different ways and can lean into it in different ways. So the best team are people that complement each other's skills. And so I highly encourage people to work collaboratively.
I think that goes in line with the story that Bruce told about the TED Talk, how the young child drew the picture of God. And I think as we get older, we lose some of that creativity because we're told, do this, do that. We've got to, you know, be on time for work and what have you. So that makes sense. It's just kind of a matter of tapping into the inner you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think a large part of my job is to help people remember that creativity and to access tools that will help bring it out. Yeah.
Next question is for Travis, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself. Travis, how can an outside person benefit from Innovation DuPage resources?
Wonderful question. So behind me are some of the first ways that can happen. By being an incubator, we are able to negotiate very discounted and sometimes free services for major services. So if you're building a new website and you need to utilize Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud, for those who are looking to raise capital and as they grow, we have a partnership with PitchBook where I can help you look at who your first angel investor could be. And as you move forward and as you're raising capital, moving toward venture capital and doing that research with you. But the resources you also have to look at is, are you a minority-owned business? Are you a women-owned business or a veteran-owned business? How do we make sure, are you properly certified? Are you getting the webinars and the networks built up so that you can get the proper loans or financing and find those first customers? So as I mentioned, while we do have a physical space that everybody, entrepreneurs are welcomed at, and we will have many different trainings, the important part is our ability to plug into where you are building. If it's a coffee shop, if you're going to Brew Point, we will come with you. We'll meet you there. There's community events, our ability to help connect you with elected officials or other corporate mentors that may give you a pilot. So it's identifying what your unique need is and then thinking through who should you connect with. Is it a professor? Is it an intern? What do you need? And we can only do that if we identify what the need is of each entrepreneur.
Thank you. Sonny, you put in a text to me that you want to handle the next question there. I'm not seeing the question. I don't know if that was popped in the Q&A by mistake, but go ahead and tackle that one.
So I believe the question was about what's the motivation behind being an entrepreneur? Is it about making a lot of money like Jeff Bezos, or is it to do greater good? And the reason I wanted to address that is it's not an either or question. First of all, it depends on the individual. Some people are in it just to make the money. And they actually don't do as well as those people that are in it to change the world or to bring service and good to the world. And so what we're finding is Gen X and Gen Y and Gen Z are preferring to give their money, they're shopping with their wallets, to those organizations that are mission driven and that are doing better, helping serve the world. And so there's a movement called conscious capitalism. There's an organization called B Corp that evaluates organizations. And it's a both and. You can make good capitalist money by doing the right things, serving others.
Excellent response. Okay, this next one is going to be kind of lengthy. I'm going to go ahead and read it, and I'll let any of the panelists who might be able to answer this to jump in. Okay, so the question is, are there any opportunities in Elmhurst University or Innovation DuPage where current challenges like mental health dip in the US can be solved through partnerships between psychology or neuroscience departments and technology innovation DuPage? For example, using psych professors to develop a device to detect extreme depression to prevent suicide. So who wants to tackle that one?
Well, I think if there isn't, there should be. And I'm sure Travis can comment on Innovation DuPage willingness to cooperate with Elmhurst. And what do you think, Travis?
So I'll touch on two pieces. I didn't hear all of the question as far as mental health, especially for entrepreneurs. And I know that's the focus of the business is going to be mental health, but mental health is a major issue with entrepreneurs and business owners because of being lonely, building something on your own, and building these such long hours. A lot of times you're away from your family and friends, and you're pushing. There's a lot of stress. You're trying to keep it together. That is an area that we also focus on, and trying to, quite frankly, keep the entrepreneurs sane and make sure that they are making the right decisions. It's okay to go to a holiday. It's okay to spend time with your family. If this business is all consuming, you will crash, especially at that early stage. And there are a number of startups that I have worked with that have been focused both on mental health as well as addiction. And I would love to connect with who asked that question afterwards. I did put my information. You can see some of it behind me as far as reaching out, and the Innovation DuPage Connect link is in the chat. If that's something that you're looking to build, I'd be happy to tap you into some networks. And this is a major international problem to solve. And if that's your passion, if that's the pain point you're trying to solve, then I'm on board, and our team's on board, because that is a major, I'm going to call it, it's a challenge that is all across the United States, and not just in entrepreneurship in each place. And solutions, if you have solutions, if you have networks to build, we would love to join you and help you build that idea out into a company or a nonprofit.
Thank you.
I'd like to build on that answer really quick. Patrick is the entrepreneur in residence, and his organization, that's part of their job. If there's somebody within our university system that has a great idea, they also partner with Travis and Innovation DuPage. But part of Patrick's job is to help people connect, and to, if they need to work with a psychology professor to help develop an app, and you've got an IT student that's wanting to work on that. That's what it's all about. The other thing is, a good portion of our professors on campus have all become mental health first aid responders. A lot of us have been trained across the campus, so we're all thinking about mental health in a different way too. Yeah, you and I both, Tim, right?
Yep.
So there you go.
Good question and great responses. We've got time for a couple more, folks, so go ahead and type them in the chat. I do have a question from Jim. Jim asks, other than Google, are there any sources of information like a database where you could determine if the idea you have for a new product or service already exists? Or is Google the go-to place? Patrick, Travis.
U.S. Patent Office. No, I don't know. That's a really good question. And if there is, I'd like to know about it, but I don't.
Can you ask the question again, Tim?
Yeah, other than in terms of resources to see if the product or service that you're thinking about exists, other than Google, is there any other database that you can kind of tap into?
Patrick, do you want to go first, or I'll jump in?
My instinct is, Bruce brought it up, the patent office, but a tremendous amount of, I think there's databases like Patent Scope, and there's all sorts of international research that you can do. I think there's a database called espace.net. So there's, in fact, if someone needs an answer to that question, I could probably get back to them a little bit more in depth. I know there's 4 or 5 if someone dug deep enough from a database standpoint, at least to start.
There are definitely ways that you can search existing patents. I just don't know what their web address is.
Yeah. So beyond the patent side, the chart behind me, these are the major funders throughout the United States. for the millions of companies that have launched, there's many different databases where you can even geo-target the kind of data you're trying to find. We do have some partnerships with, and I believe Elmhurst would have this as well, that there are business databases where you can research specifically geographic areas, who are some of your competitors. Again, I was talking about PitchBook. If there's an idea out there and you're trying to build something, I can build a whole list of any competitor in that space, who funded them, who their employees are. So there are lots of different resources. I actually wouldn't go to Google first, quite frankly, because it's going to take you in a lot of different directions. So the ability to really pinpoint and find the resource where you can search into a specific industry area, or if it's technology, you can actually drill down into technologies and looking at how would machine learning or artificial intelligence help to make this product better. Again, this is a collaboration, and you're not always going to find it right away. There can be weeks, sometimes years of research to find something that's going to literally change a market, but there are lots of different sources. And again, my team would love to work with you on that.
Thank you all. Next question is from Mark. Can one become an entrepreneur with no or little money or resources? Bootstrapping, I guess, would be kind of the question. So who wants to tackle that one?
I'll take it, Tim. I think right now, with a lot of the internet businesses, for example, it's less costly to do a startup than it ever has been in business history. As my story about Jeff Bezos, he started on a shoestring. I think most of those tech entrepreneurs did. How many of them started in their college dorm? So yeah, I would encourage you. In fact, one of our professors who has started 9 businesses and all successful, and he sells them after a certain size, usually when they're about 30 million in sales, said he doesn't believe you should have to spend a lot of money. He likes to start a business on a tight budget. He thinks if I understand him right, it's a good discipline not to start throwing money at a issue. So that's my perception. It's a good time, to the questioner.
Patrick, do you want to
go ahead?
Patrick, do you want to talk about what we're going to be doing next week about funding your startup?
Yeah.
Patrick.
Is there? I'm sorry. You might want to talk a little bit about that.
Sorry, on the 14th, Patrick and I will be doing a presentation
Yes.
for students on angel investing and other ways to fund your startups. This is just one slide talking about different ways to do that. Bootstrapping is, that's an overused term, but as Professor Fisher said, through software, this is actually one of the best times in the history to start a venture because of your ability to keep costs down, validate your customers, reach out to new audiences, target them very specifically through digital marketing, content creation, and social media, and figure it out before you spend a lot of money. You may find out that this is not what you want to spend the next 5 years of your life doing, spending your savings on, alienating some of your family members, driving yourself a little bit crazy. That's good because you can do it faster than ever before.
Thank you. In response to one of the questions asked, one of our participants suggested that you go to ustpo.gov to do a fairly high level search. It's fairly easy to navigate. So Ed, thank you very much for putting that in. We're pretty much running out of time. I do want to get some final comments from our panelists here, but I do want to thank all 4 of you for the information that you've shared this evening. That's great. Thank you to all of our guests who logged in this evening. If you'd like to learn more about the new graduate certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship, or any of the other 20+ master's degrees or graduate certificate programs that we offer at Elmhurst University, you're in luck, because coming up a week from Saturday on the 17th at 9 a.m. Central Time, we're offering our spring graduate program's virtual information session. You'll need to register at elmhurst.edu/choose Elmhurst to get the Zoom link. But then you'll be able to get a chance to meet with any of the faculty for any of our programs. There's an admission and financial aid presentation, as well as an alumni panel. So you can ask actual alums of programs to see how their master's degree has helped them in their personal and life and careers. Before we close the discussion this evening, I did want to go back to the panelists and see if you had any final thoughts or comments that you'd like to share with everyone this evening. And we're going to go backwards in terms of the order that we started with. So Travis, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are there any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with everyone tonight?
I do, and I'd like to say, for those who have been either fearful or intimidated about really taking that first step to launch a new business. A lot of times, similarly, if you've seen any of the Star Wars franchise, you know what one of these Imperial Star Destroyers are. And there's these massive, massive ships, something like a Google or a Facebook or other major brands if you're trying to sell at a Target or other locations. And fear will actually stop people from ever going out and building something, because they think this big behemoth is going to steal their idea, spend more money, stop what they're trying to do. Well, just like in those movies, those little X-Wing fighters or the Millennium Falcon, they can move, you can move so quickly and change what you're doing as a small business or as a startup, that as you are listening to your customers, as you're listening to the audience, you can adapt what you're building like a big ship can't. It takes them a long time to move a large enterprise like that, where you can be zig-zagging along. And as you build an excellent team, which is very important, your first 5 employees have to be the excellent, because you can never hire people beyond somebody that's excellent if you hire poorly. So those first 5 employees are very, very vital to building something that's successful. But just like in the movies, you build a rebel alliance, you get the right people on your team, you can take those big ships down by being a small spaceship or an X-Wing fighter, but you got to get started. And again, the purpose of us being on this panel is giving you resources so that you can get started. And there's excellent brain power both on this panel and within Elmhurst University and the mentors that they have put together to make sure you can do that.
Fantastic. We'll move to Dr. Fisher.
Yeah, from observing entrepreneurs, talking to them, I think there are 3 things that motivate them to go to make take the risk to become entrepreneurs. One is they want freedom. They want control over their life. Not necessarily a shorter work week, though. The second one is creativity. I think creativity, the psychologists would call it an intrinsic factor that motivates people. Just the joy of creating something. And then the third one is an opportunity to do something really significant. You can change the world as an entrepreneur. And that's up to you, how you do it.
Outstanding. We'll move to Patrick, our entrepreneur in residence. Final thoughts or comments?
Yes, my final thought is this. The very near future of entrepreneurship and innovation is going to be very reliant on data. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you're launching a cookie business idea in your kitchen or some brand new revolutionary technology business. Your ability to understand and articulate data is going to be critically important from a efficiency, profitability, and customer acquisition standpoint. Doesn't matter if you're a one-person shop or you grow quickly. I'm reading a lot of information about how this 4th industrial revolution is coming, which is a trend towards automation, data exchange, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, cloud computing, big data as an example. It's just going to be very important for you to be a part of it and be aware of it, because you can be rest assured that it's going to affect your business or idea, no matter what it is, in some way, shape, or form. So if you think about it, think about all the people who discounted the internet 30 years ago and it put them out of business, right? So then think about the people that embraced it. So it's going to be very important to pay attention to this next revolution, so you have an eye on the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Dr. Simpson, bring us home.
Hey, I just want to tell you that each and every single one of us here, each and every single one of you guys observing and watching, are innovative and are creative, and will need to fit into those skills as you move forward, whether you are launching your new business, whether you're an entrepreneur in an existing business, or whether you are, simply a great manager and leader. And so please lean into that, and with your teams, partner up, make sure that you've got your creative ideas, you've got your strategy, and you've got your implementation within your team. You don't have to be good at all of them. Your team has to be good at all of them. So please do that. And if you're getting a daily idea log habit, wouldn't it be nice if, what can we do today so that 3 years from now, whatever this problem is we're dealing with will be the best thing that ever happened to us. So you guys got it.
And remember Whitney.
Whitney, wouldn't it be nice if? Wouldn't it be nice if?
Again, thanks everybody. As a reminder, we've had some folks chat in there. We are recording this. We will send you a link within the next couple of days or so. There's also going to be a little short survey attached to that. And as a token of our appreciation for participating this evening and for sending us some feedback, you can order a complimentary Elmhurst University t-shirt. So make sure you check your email in the next couple of days for the link to the recording and the link to the survey and the t-shirt order form. That's it. That's a wrap. Again, everybody, thank you for attending. Oh, I see Patrick's raising his finger. He's got something else to share.
I apologize. One last thing. I did make a boo-boo. There is a angel investment talk with Travis at Innovation DuPage and us next Wednesday at 11:45 lunchtime. So looking forward to seeing some of you there, and that can be found at the Elmhurst University website. Thank you.
Yep. Click on the Wiegand Center for Professional Excellence and then the eCelerator link, and all the entrepreneur events that are coming up for the rest of the semester are going to be listed there. So again, we're a little bit over time. Thank you all for joining us. Panelists, outstanding job, and hope to see some of you who are interested in learning more about our graduate programs on April 17th at our information session. But otherwise, that's it from us. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.